welcome back to the Basement Gun Shop. Well, today I'm going off topic again. It's middle of October. There's frost on my windshield this morning when I ran for coffee. Yeah, Don's out running around with the boys. I got the house to myself, so I thought I'd do a video off topic on home brewing, my newest addiction. It's something that I've always wanted to try for a number of years. Just never got around to doing it. Finally, I took the plunge and I bought a kit of equipment from, I actually purchased it through Amazon.com, and it came from Homebrew, Ohio. And it was all the equipment, 90% of the equipment you need to start brewing your own beer. Or wine for that matter. The process is very similar, although I haven't done any wine. In fact, last night I brewed my 5th batch of extract beer, which there's a number of different ways you can brew beer. You can do what's called extract brewing, where you're given the malt extracts in liquid or powdered form and you mix them into the boil kettle. There's brew in a bag, which is a convenience compromise between all grain brewing and extract brewing, where you don't need all the equipment of all grain brewing. And then there's all grain brewing. I don't want to go too deep into that because this would turn into another 57-minute video like the one I shot last night. So I decided to break that one down and just do the equipment that I got in the kit and the other equipment that I needed to purchase in addition to, simply because while the kit does give you pretty much everything you need, it doesn't give you everything, and there are some really cool tools out there that make home brewing a lot easier, especially when you're trying to figure out what your alcohol by volume or your ABV is going to be on a beer you're brewing. So let's take a look at the kit. I got it all stacked up behind me here on the stove. Let's take a look at that. So we're going to start over here on the left. This is a 6.5 gallon glass carboy for fermenting your beer. This is a 6.5 gallon bottling bucket. The bottling bucket comes complete with a spigot that you only put on hand tight, so you can pull it all apart, sanitize it, make it nice and clean for your soon-to-be beer. And these are the big things. These are the big important ones. Now, if you have a source for, say, the 5-gallon water jugs from, like a water cooler or something to that effect, you can absolutely use them. In point of fact, I have one out on the back porch that I just emptied, and what was in that, I use that for secondary fermentation for an English brown ale that I have in the fridge right now that I brewed like 5 weeks ago. It did a week in primary fermentation, 2 weeks in secondary in the 5-gallon glass or 5-gallon plastic water jug with an airlock, and then 2 weeks in the bottles to carbonate and condition, and then boop, into the fridge. Was drinking that last night while I was brewing, and yeah, it was going down really well. Let's see, what else do you get? You get a bung and a 3-piece airlock for keeping air out of your beer when it's fermenting. You don't want too much oxygen getting to it. So you fill this halfway up with water, and it allows the excess CO2 that the yeast produce to bubble out while keeping anything from getting in. The kit also came with a package of Be Bright sanitizer. This sanitizer, the only drawback to this is after you use this, you have to rinse everything with cold water or cool water. So you're really chewing up a lot of water when you're using this stuff, especially when you brew a 5-gallon batch. You're talking basically 60 bottles of beer. You have to wash those 60 bottles, then sanitize them, then rinse them, and that's a lot of water. If you're like me and you're on city water here where I live, then you're driving your water bill up. So there are no rinse sanitizers out there. Specifically speaking, the one that comes to mind is called Star San. You can get that. It came with a bottle cleaning brush to scrub out your carboys, so you can get in there, clean it all out, do what you need to do and clean your beer bottles. It came with a pack of bottle caps and a bottle capper. This is a little hand bottle capper. You just put it on there and boom, cap your bottles. It came with the plastic tubing to attach to the spigot. It came with what's called a racking cane, a bottling wand. This has a valve right here on the end. So what you do is you attach this to the tubing, the other end of the tubing to the spigot on the bottling bucket, and stick this wand down into the beer bottle, and it fills the bottle from the bottom up, and it doesn't aerate it too much. It came with a clip to put on the side of the bucket to hold the hose and the wand, and it came with a hydrometer. Now, let's talk about the stuff I bought afterwards, after I did my first batch. Specifically, let's start with the hydrometer. This is a glass tube, weighted at one end and sealed so it floats. And according to the specific gravity in your beer, it's how far up or down this will sink in the liquid before it equalizes and sits there or hits neutral buoyancy. There's a good one for you. The problem with this is you need some sort of a vessel. This is about 10 inches long, so you need something that's at least this long, like a graduated cylinder. So you have to fill that up with your beer that you're making to float this hydrometer. Problem with that, as I see it, is if you take 3 or 4 specific gravity readings in a batch and it takes 3 or 4 ounces of beer, you just wasted a bottle of beer. I'm not brewing it to waste it, I'm brewing it to enjoy it and drink it. So a better tool you can get is a refractometer. Instead of using 3 or 4 ounces, this literally uses 3 or 4 drops of beer on this plate right here, and then you flip the cover shut, hold it up to the light like this, and you get a reading of your estimated specific gravity or your Brix measurement. This one measures in Brix and specific gravity, SG. So this is a neat little tool. This is an extra 60 bucks, I believe. I got this one from northernbrewer.com. They have everything. They're the absolute beer geeks mecca. There's a couple other places like homebrewsupply.com, homebrewOhio.com. They have pretty much everything, and if you don't find it at one place, you'll find it at another. Their prices are all comparable with each other, so you're not going to get, raked over the coals or something like that. So let's continue on. One thing I did not have was a really big pot. This is a Bayou Classic 6-gallon or 24-quart boil kettle that I use, obviously, for boiling. Big honkin' strainer. This is a double mesh stainless steel strainer. Some extract kits come with not only liquid or dry malt extract, but they also come with specialty grains. You put these specialty grains in a muslin bag, you put it in the water for 20 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever the recipe calls for, and steep the grains just like a big tea bag. So, it's kind of a pain in the ass to hold a 4 or 5 pound bag of wet grains up like this and let them drain. So you can just take this, slap that on top, pull a muslin bag out, and drop that in and let it drain. And you can also use that for rinsing off your grains and doing whatever else you need to do. Let's see. A big mouth funnel with a fine mesh strainer. This helps when you're transferring from the boil kettle into the bottling bucket, or rather, from the boil kettle directly into the fermenter, or from the bottling bucket into the fermenter. This helps with filtering out any trub. Trub is the stuff that's left over in the bottom of the boil kettle, the sludge from the hops or the extract or leftover grains or anything like that. That helps filter it out to help your beer be clear, more like a commercial beer rather than a cloudy, unfiltered homebrew beer, which most homebrew beers are unfiltered. Now, there are people out there who have, homebrewers, who have honest-to-God commercial setups. And quite frankly, I'm heading that route because it's a lot of fun, and when you get to drink your own beer, it's quite rewarding. Beyond that, when you're transferring from the fermenter to the bottling bucket, you don't want to pick up the fermenter and just dump it, because you're going to aerate your beer more than you want. And on the bottom of that, there's a great big yeast cake. Everything that has settled out of the beer when it's fermenting. So in that vein, you need a siphon. This is an auto siphon. You just simply stick this end into your beer an inch or so below the surface, pump it once or twice, and the beer comes up and then is forced through the tube down, and then gravity does the rest of the work. It takes some time, but you don't want all that gunk on the bottom in your beer. Something else you're going to need is a reliable thermometer. I have two sitting right here. I have your standard kitchen thermometer that you can hold onto this and put it in the liquid. The problem with that is when you're steeping your grains, you're at about 160 degrees, and if it's boiling, you're even closer. On the top, I've noticed that when this is boiling, the top of the liquid is about 197 degrees. So you're getting your hand right down there close to some really hot stuff, and it kind of gets uncomfortable. Plus, with my miserable up-close vision that I need reading glasses for, this is kind of a pain in the ass for me to see the little bitty numbers on there. This getting old stuff and old eyes is a real pain. So, I've got a little Radio Shack laser aimed thermometer, and for the basement gun shop, it's laser aimed. So that's kind of cool. And pretty much you're gonna need a big spoon, because you got to stir that around while it's boiling, make sure nothing sticks to the bottom, that whole chestnut. The last thing I will say, drawbacks of the kit I bought. This bottle capper broke when I was bottling my first case of beer. And I got 2 full cases out of the first batch, and I had to repair the jaws in this bottle capper twice. That sucked. I'm in the middle of bottling and I gotta run downstairs, take a punch and a hammer, knock the jaws out, put them back in the vise, bend them straight, bring them back, put them in the capper, and go back to capping. It doesn't work right. I have since stopped using it, and quite frankly, as soon as I was done with that case of beer, well, with that bottling that batch, I bought this, which is a nice adjustable wine bottle heavy duty corker. You can do wine bottles on this, you can do beer bottles, whatever you need to cap. There you go. Beyond that, you're gonna need roughly 60 bottles that take pry-off caps. You can't do twist-ons with home brewing. Well, I shouldn't say you can't do that because I don't know, but I'm fairly certain that you can't do the whole twist-on caps with home brewing. They have to seal tight, they have to be airtight, because what happens is when you are bottle conditioning your freshly brewed beer is when it's in fermentation, the CO2, the excess pressure, is relieved through the airlock. But when you want to carbonate in the bottle, what happens is it starts to build pressure up there in the headspace, the little like 1 inch or so of empty space you leave in the bottle. The cap is crimped on so it can't escape, so that pressure builds and the CO2 dissolves back into the liquid, and that's what carbonates your beer. When you pop that off, that's what carbonation is. It's CO2 that's dissolved in the liquid, but basically boiling out of the liquid. Beyond that, a couple helpful things are 2 or 3 of these big plastic snack jugs, snack jars with the screw-on lid, and 2 or 3 1-gallon jugs, empty, used plastic 1-gallon jugs that have been cleaned out and then sanitized, so you can use for measuring water, you can use for mixing sanitizer. That's what I use this for. The Be Bright sanitizer says 1 tablespoon per gallon of water. Simple. Measure one of these, throw a tablespoon in there, dump it in, swish it around, done. Sanitizer made. Easy enough. So that's pretty much the equipment you're going to need if you want to start brewing your own beer. I've actually got more equipment on order. I've got a King Cooker, what is it, 52 quart or 58 quart. It works out to 12.5 gallons. For the 50 quart turkey fryer with the propane base that, you know, you hook a propane tank up to it and fire it up. It also has the big strainer basket because I'm moving on to brewing a bag, all grain brewing. So watch for a video on that coming down the line. That's probably gonna be pretty intense as far as brewing goes. I don't know when I'm gonna make the plunge into just all grain brewing, even though brewing a bag is all grain brewing. You're not adding any extracts. You're extracting everything from the milled grains you put into the mash. Beyond that, that's it. So here's a short 14-minute, 37-second video on home brewing and home brewing equipment. I'm going to go back and re-edit the video I shot last night of me brewing an extract batch. So hopefully I can shorten that up a lot more because I don't want to throw 50 minutes up there. I can shorten that up a lot more and just show you the extract brewing kit and the whole extract brewing process. But I do tend to get long-winded, you know, go figure. So that's pretty much it for this edition of the Basement Gun Shop. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below in the comments section. Like the channel, subscribe, even better. Till next time, stay safe, keep shooting, and enjoy a beer. Cheers.